Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is a beautiful Buckhead day today, and we're out here looking at this billion-dollar view again to one of the finest communities in the world at the Crossroads. At the Crossroads here off Peach Street down on Lennox Road, and we got Rich Casanova on the boards today. Got Michael Moore here on behalf of the Buckhead Business Association, and we're proud to be part of the Buckhead community and making business grow a little bit faster and do a little bit better. If you live here, you love it here, or you work here, we're glad to have you as part of our community. This morning we've got two phenomenal guests. We've got Matthew Moore, who's not my cousin, but we may adopt him. And we've also got Tom Berger. We're going to talk about some interesting things. And the common theme that we'll wrap up with the end of this show is that we're all paying it forward. We're all looking for ways to improve the community we live in, and we're pretty well doing the whole Atlanta metropolitan area. Tom's got a very interesting background, and Matthew's got a very interesting program, and we're going to share how people are involved with the community and how to do things. But the Buckhead Business Association, Rich proudly says we're at our 65th year this year, wrapping it up. And boy, that's probably a lot of history in business. And business is the middle name there, the Buckhead Business Association, as well as Pro Business Channel brings you this effort each week to bring some quality guests to the thing. So let's just jump right into the show with Tom Berger. RDK Consulting, I don't know what all those fancy initials stand for, but really, Tom, your story is the important one. 22 years in real business, like a big company, Fortune, and then 23 years of doing what you enjoy most, which is helping others. So categorize a little bit of how that, I think your Motorola background is going to be very interesting to these folks, because you are the fellow who invented cell phones, right?
Oh, not quite. No.
Well, you've got some interesting history, but you're bringing those now to the marketplace, and one of the things we're going to focus on is the pay it forward piece of what you've given to entrepreneurs in the market. We're going to talk about some of those times, but talk a little bit about how someone at your tender young age of over 39 have bringing all these experiences to the marketplace, and we're so glad to have you here in Atlanta. So talk a little bit about your transition into not only entrepreneurship, but in running a venture capital organization, and maybe give us that 3 to 5 minute overview of Tom Berger as he's moved through life.
Okay, thanks. First, it's a pleasure to be here today. To begin with, I'm an engineer, bachelor's and master's in electrical engineering. That was about 1,000 years ago. And I spent 22 years in big companies, 17 years at Motorola in a variety of positions, from engineering to marketing, sales, product, and so forth. Some were very successful, some not so successful.
Well, I do understand the positive number was there. After all the settlements were made, you have numbers and zeros that go along with your commas, right?
Well, yeah, it was about $265 million the companies were sold for over time. So, unfortunately, I only got a very, very, very little
a sliver. Yeah, so 1% of a whole bunch of efforts. Right. Good thing. Okay.
Well, the interesting thing, though, is when I left Motorola and was in my first startup, I started noticing the difference between big companies and little companies, and I started jotting down notes, and the notes kept growing and growing to the point it reached 983 different items.
Subjects. Wow.
Simple as that. Something much more profound. Many of them were based upon mistakes I've made over the years. And 8 years ago, I retired and decided to start helping companies on a pro bono basis, entrepreneurs and startups, and based upon those 983 items. And my goal was to help them make new mistakes, not the same ones I made over the years. And so I've been working with probably, well, in excess of 40 companies and serving that many entrepreneurs over the years. And as I said, just helping them on various aspects of the business.
I know your diversity at Motorola has certainly allowed you to come into the marketplace here. We bump into each other at some of the entrepreneurial events I'm involved with. But you know, you're counseling and helping a lot of entrepreneurs, as you said, hopefully make some new mistakes. But you've seen a lot of the things that are going on here in the Atlanta market. And I know you've left the venture capital arena, but talk about what entrepreneurs really need in order to be a little more successful. And we'll talk later about your new website, which you're giving to the community, but talk about some of those specific things.
Sure. I think one of the biggest mistakes most entrepreneurs make is they really think about what they need as money to grow their business. Money is not the limiting factor. The limiting factor for them, their success, is the time, how they spend their time. And I see so many of them are spending time on things that are not that important to their core business. And so, for example, an entrepreneur will spend time learning how to develop their own website. You can get other people to do that. They'll spend time learning how to run QuickBooks when there's many people that can do that. So it's the lack of focus on time. And the most fundamental issue is one question they have to answer. And they are solving a problem that customers agree needs to be solved now and are willing to pay them for it. And not understanding that there's a lot of people that have great ideas and they are solving a problem, but it's a problem that never kind of makes it to the top of the list. One example I use is anytime I walk into a big box store, like a Best Buy, I walk up and down every aisle and I see something in every aisle that I'd like to buy. But typically I walk out of the store with nothing. It's not that the products aren't right, they just haven't reached that threshold. So a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize that although what they're doing is key in their minds, it's not that important to other customers. So fundamentally solving a problem that customers agree needs to be solved is what they need to focus on.
So I hear a little bit about this theory of not only a niche market, but also the ability to market. As you said, at Motorola, certainly the brand's always important. So how do entrepreneurs in our marketplace?
Sometimes that's what it takes. We'll talk about my website. The one I say is CEO means Chief Everything Officer. And when an entrepreneur starts out, they've got to do everything. But then the real challenge that they face is figuring out what they can delegate to others and hiring other people. One of the mistakes they commonly make, entrepreneurs make, is they hire somebody just like them. Mm-hmm. And what they should be doing is hiring somebody who's totally their opposite. And that way you can just share the responsibilities and learn, let each person carry the ball, and then add people to the organization as required.
The what to do, not necessarily how to do it individually. They need help in there.
That's right, exactly right.
So, the old story of Chief Everything Officer, that all comes back to just how do you grow? You mentioned money's not the thing, time is the thing. So how do you get an entrepreneur to look at time multiplication in their business?
Okay, it's really force multiplication, but let me go back a step. We often hear in real estate the three most important things are location, location, location. For companies, the three most important things are revenue, revenue, and revenue, but they're different. And this is a big mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make. The first part of revenue that they need is referenceable revenue, external validation. What they have to realize, it's not what they say about their company, it's what other people do. And so focusing on getting referenceable revenue is the first thing. The second thing is scalable revenue. Can more than just the entrepreneur do it? And then third and finally is profitable revenue. And what happens is so many entrepreneurs think about they've got to be profitable on day one. And the reality is without that external validation, they can't do it. Without being able to scale, profitability will never come. Then it's profitability later on. So understanding those three steps are very, very critical. And unfortunately, missed quite a bit by entrepreneurs.
Well, as we see an entrepreneur, that come to mind, having a product which the market needs and having the ability to deliver it effectively means you don't really have to build it yourself. And so many people look past this idea of being a distributor or finding a new niche market for an existing product. So I know some of your current consulting engagements with entrepreneurs are even looking around some simple things as delivering healthcare solutions which are already there. It's just delivering them effectively and using technology and data to make it cost effective. So
that's right.
Look at some of those ideas.
Yeah, well, to give you one example, in 1999 I sold a company in Memphis, and people asked me what I was going to do. And I said, well, I'm either going to retire or find a company that's got a crackerjack distribution organization and find a product for them to sell. It's all about distribution. When you cut to the chase, it's how you get your product or your service in customers' hands. And so distribution is the key element. So what I recommend to every entrepreneur is figure out what your long-term distribution strategy is. And building a national sales organization just is not one of the viable alternatives. Or just trying to service on a national basis. I say follow an epicenter model. For example, if you can't find customers here in Atlanta, I'm not sure you've got a product. Okay, but I see entrepreneurs that they say if the customer can fog a mirror in Idaho, I'm going to go after them.
Yeah, it's not going to work very well.
So you start out here and then gradually move out, all the way out to Chattanooga.
Well, like you said, you get referenceable revenue. You get customers who are really paying you money, not just funny money. You've got to be able to scale, and then of course you've got to make sure you're profitable. And somehow you have to balance those things. Now, as you said, you're trying to help people make new mistakes. by learning what you've learned. So let's talk a little bit about this website. I understand you are releasing your website, or have currently released it, and you've got well more than 10 articles and less than 1,000. So talk about this time you've spent a number of years categorizing all these experiences, and you've spent a lot of probably time honing these answers. So talk a little bit about what you've given the community with your CXO Atlas product.
Sure. That's the site. It's cxo-atlas.com. And it really started taking these 983 articles. And what I did in 2004, I started writing. And I wrote 4 chapters. There were 92 pages, I think. And I finished it, and it dawned on me, even back then, people don't read. And so I put it aside, and in January 2015, almost 3 years ago, I started writing short articles. These articles are about 1.5 pages each, 800 words is a typical average. And each article covers a very, very specific single subject.
One of those 983 items, but you're down to 500 now, right?
Well, yeah, it's so far I've written 492 articles.
Wow.
And put them on the site. They're in 9 volumes and 36 chapters. I'm not done yet. I still have more to do, so it's a living document. But what it is you can sort them various ways. You can read any article in any order. You don't have to start at the beginning of a volume, chapter, or section. You can just read them. They're all standalone.
So the index is your key.
Right, exactly right.
The chapter
Exactly.
verses, chapter verse and comma,
Right.
subparagraph. I've read a couple of these, and you're right. They're so complete. You just, if you only read 1 or 2 of them, you're going to get a whole new bunch of volumes of knowledge if you sat down and absorbed them. So, Tom, I know that's a labor of love for you, and as you're working with currently 10 or 12 companies in pro bono consulting with entrepreneurs. You have one of those favorites right now you're showing us?
There's a number. Boy, that's hard to pick out. The one that I'm really excited about is one. Basically, it saves lives. The company is called Handgenics, and they have a hand washing solution or hand hygienic solution for hospitals. People don't realize it, but I think it's 200,000 people a year die from hospital acquired infections,
Right.
and it all has to do with not washing their hands properly, or the staff not washing their hands properly. So they have a very unique solution based on some very unique technology, and this one is really exciting because fundamentally
It saves lives. Well, I know you save lives on an individual basis too. I had the opportunity to speak to one of your pro bono clients regarding executive coaching, and just really quantifying what they were trying to do, looking at how they might accomplish it, and helping them step through and listen to the answers. So I can speak first-handedly from watching you work with someone and having a great result. So I know you're very proud of that. Well, Tom, how do they get in touch with you out there in the marketplace?
Okay, really the best thing to do is take a look at the CXO-Atlas website, and they've got contact information. They can also reach me at Tom at RDK Consulting. And to answer your question, beginning, RDK stands for my 3 children's names, Ray, Dan, and Kathy.
Well, that's a good thing. I know you also, we're going to talk in the second half here a little bit about paying it forward. You actually pay it forward. I understand you're a member of the CEO NetWeavers organization. I know that they're doing a lot of things, and that's, of course, have opened a lot of doors up to you. So we're proud of your give back in the community. So thank you very much for that. So thank you, Tom, for being with us. We're going to take just a little bit of a thing and go back here to the Buckhead Business Association. We just had a great social, which we have every month on the third Thursday of each month with one of our Buckhead spots. Of course, every week we have a morning meeting, which brings a speaker. I often tell people, if you want to learn something new that you can talk about in the marketplace, come to our Thursday morning meetings, meet some good folks, and hear a good speaker. This morning, we've gone through a lot of special folks, and I do want to mention we have an annual luncheon coming up in January. We just confirmed the president of Porsche North America will be with us for that event, which will be in January. It'll be held right here in the Intercontinental Hotel. So, as we say, save the date. Look at the website, buckheadbusiness.org, and plan on being with us with a lot of your other personal friends here in Atlanta. So now let's move over to our second guest this morning, Matthew Moore, which is, you have a very interesting process, and you go by the little mantra of pay it forward. Your organization is doing some true pay it forward to help school children and youth in our city be more appropriately attired to go do sports. So talk about how you and your wife got started.
Like Tom, spent the majority of my career in corporate America, not with any companies the size of Motorola, but certainly multi-billion-dollar companies. So I have a lot of experience in supply chain strategy and finance is primarily my background. A couple years ago, we decided that we wanted to do something outside of just the traditional day-to-day, work that we were doing, and this comes from growing up in Lincoln, Nebraska, where I had the privilege of being basically adopted by a family out there that took me into their family when I didn't have a place to live, and so that was something that I experienced at an early age and realized that probably down the road I would like to do something to give back. She was a school teacher, and after I left high school, she moved to a different school with a little bit more underprivileged children, and would, in many cases, bring clothes to the kids, buy clothes, gym clothes for the kids at the school, as well as cook breakfast for them and do a lot of nice things for them. So that was really where it was all born 20 plus years ago. So we figured out a couple years ago we wanted to do something different. I realized I love a really good, comfortable, eco-friendly shirt, and realized there wasn't a lot of those out in the marketplace. So Tom, to your point, I realized that there was a little bit of gap there. So we decided, what if we come up with a great product, with a great story, what else is out there, who else out there is doing that? And we found that there wasn't very many people doing that besides the Toms and the Bombas. So we launched Moshyn, spelled M-O-S-H-Y-N. Actually 2 weeks ago we formally launched, but we had been building up for the prior, probably close to 2 years up to the launch. And basically it's very simple. So you buy an article of clothing from us, and a child starting out here in the Atlanta area gets a full gym outfit. So
wow, that's better than 1 for 1. That's a 3 for 1. I think it's one of your mantras.
Shorts, shirt, and socks.
All right, ready to go.
Yep. And so here we are. And so now we're trying to get the word out. And we've partnered with Children's Restoration Network here in Atlanta, who already has relationships with 130 plus homeless children in the area. They're already doing amazing things. This is just an incredible organization that probably no one's heard about. So we're really, really fortunate to partner with them to provide the outfits to the children.
Well, back to our earlier point, so you went back to your home area and witnessed and saw and grew up with this process of understanding what the needs and the missing pieces are. You found a niche. Right. And rather than just looking to a product to distribute, you decided you need to create the project. So you're making the eco-friendly shirts. Are you also going to be stretching like Spanx and go into the shorts and the socks and all the other things?
So on the side, we also, my wife runs a yoga studio. I used to be part owner, but I'm not anymore. So we have a whole yoga community that we have access to that we're looking to probably start apparel lines and that side.
That's certainly some live testing, right?
That's right.
Now we can see all of our young children starting to do yoga as a result, because the clothes make the workout, right?
Right.
Yep. Stay out of shoes, though. That could be too many colors for you to work with. Now the mechanics of getting this into retail. I mean, and Tom's going to chime in here a little later, but just the mechanics of getting your product even in the specialty stores like a yoga studio to be sold, but into a big box or into a medium box or that's a lot of effort. So your eco-friendly shirt's got to have some neat features.
Yes, absolutely. So we're starting with everything online. So we don't have a retail presence as of yet. There's not enough margin in the financial model to support going through retail outlets yet, but once we get the unit cost down through better manufacturing and higher scale volume, we'll look at the retail options. But right now it's all online.
So this is men's and women's products, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So in the Atlanta marketplace, let's just talk about marketing for a minute. You're trying to get the word out, and you can't do it all through social media. You got to feel the shirt. Kind of hard to do on the scratch and sniff computer, right?
Right. No, I'll be interested to hear from Tom later on if we get into it. Just the influence of, or the increase in influencer marketing and social media marketing. So we're trying to identify folks that we think have a lot of folks that listen to them and get our shirts to them. We believe we have the best shirt out there, and we believe that we have the best story attached to it. So then it's just a matter of getting shirts in the hands of the people that can influence others. So that's been a big focus of ours. And Tom, to your point earlier about not trying to do everything ourselves, we did finally engage with a PR marketing firm to do the things that we just didn't know what we were doing.
Well, I think that's why you're on the show today.
That's right.
They said, I think we ought to get your word out there. Well, we believe that we're going to help you broadcast your brand. So I think today you're going to be in our studio, and you're going to have the benefit of talking to a lot of folks and a lot of extra ears. But let's go back to that process in our city, and you're in a microcosm here of a lot of different folks. where have you seen some successes in reaching the marketplace today?
As far as the consumers that would buy our shirts.
Right, the consumers that are currently your customers and hopefully your brand ambassadors and your
yeah,
raving fans. How
right,
about that?
right,
Raving
right,
fans.
right. No, I definitely subscribe to the belief that we got to find 10 people that really, really love our product and not friends and family that go out and tell everybody about it. So really it's been across the board age-wise. It's people that want a product that has a story attached to it. So, you know, the question we always ask is, what does your shirt say? It's not just what it says on the, you know, on the front of it. It's, you know, what does the shirt mean? And those are the people that have been early adopters with our product, are those that enjoy a product with the story behind it.
So when you're able to educate them, now of course you have to have a website to do that, and you have to have a social media presence, so those are things you're working on. So I think I saw one of your says the graphics also are very popular now in shirts because you're, that'll surely change your mentality as you're running down there. Give you a little, but you know, next month we'll have you've been passed by an old guy. I'm gonna start that shirt.
So to the point, we put logos on the back of the racerback tank tops,
okay,
for the women's tank tops, and we have our logo on the back so people can see it.
So what's the eco-friendly part of the special eco process, or how did you get to that part?
That was probably the part that took the longest. You know, there's cost implications of eco-friendliness, and we decided that we wanted a higher-end product with a story that we understood start to finish, and we're willing to pay a little bit more for that. So are fine, no child labor laws are being broken, people are being paid well, and it's a certification that they're given. So that's our, you know, eco-friendly stamp that we want to make sure that we have. So.
Okay. Well, I'm interested to see. I think by at this point in time, maybe we'll take a little turn here. Tom, you up for some good consulting this morning?
Sure.
You've heard some of this story. One of the things I want to share about the story of Tom is I've heard the story about you. You have two. We talked a little bit earlier before the show. You're into hunting a little bit, but you have another special story. You have a pair of golden retrievers with pretty unique names. Want to share that with us?
Sure. My two golden retrievers are named Smith and Wesson.
Now, they make personal appearances, I understand, throughout your home county up there, and you've got a pretty good number there. You're a numbers guy. You really produce some results.
Well, yeah, the name is actually the totally opposite of what they do. Smith and Wesson are therapy dogs. And so every Friday, this is what we do all day Friday, we go to 4 different schools in Forsyth County, and we spend time with special needs kids in different classes. So the boys, as I refer to them, come in and the kids lay on them, pull their faces, pull their ears, and sit on them and do everything else. And you can imagine. And the dogs just stay there and just love it. And we've been doing it for 6 years, and we've made 384 school visits.
Wow.
We see about 40 to 50 kids we see about 40 to 50 kids, you know, Friday, and we have a raging argument amongst the teachers and myself. Who enjoys it more, the dogs, myself, the teachers, and the kids? And so we've come to the conclusion we're 4 for 4.
So I was going to say, do you get more than one vote every week, or do you just only get one vote per week?
Right.
Well, Tom, thank you for that. And I wanted to bring that back because it was tenacity, and I wanted to start out with that scalability process. You can't duplicate that, but you can continue to deliver it. And over 384 visits over 6 years, 50 children a week, that's a whole lot of dog licks.
Well, it really is. And my one dog is a real kisser. So.
So let's switch back to put on your consulting hat here. And Matthew, if you had one challenge in your business today that you wanted Tom to help us drill down on, let's think about that challenge you had this week with your co-CEO there, your spouse.
And remember, Tom is pro bono, right? Yeah.
That's right. It is pro bono. This.
So I think our biggest challenge right now is to figure out who are the best influencers to get our product to and get our story to. There's a whole host of social media strategies out there that we're looking at and testing, but you know, how do we get, we believe in our story, we believe in our product, but how do we get to the right people that can be ambassadors for us?
Okay, first I want to make 2 qualifications. This is pro bono, so you're getting what you pay for.
Okay.
Oh, double.
The second thing is what I tell everybody that I work with. I said, listen to everything I say, but you certainly shouldn't do everything I tell you to do.
Okay.
So I think rather than 10, your ambassadors should be in the hundreds. And I think it's all about social media, about what you do. I'm fortunate enough now, I have time that I can pay it for. But there's so many people now that are very, very busy with their careers, especially, we always belie the millennials, you know, but there's lots of good-hearted people there that when they hear your story, and it's really not only what you're doing in terms of giving back, but why you're doing this. The story is important, but why you're doing this, and getting people to understand that. And today in the clothing space, there's so many competitors, as you well know. You don't want to compete directly with any of those people. You want people to buy your product because of what you're doing for them. And so I think it's really a social media play to get the influencers, but I think getting the message out to people to help you spread the word, I think that's the really key thing. Now, one thing I will tell you that if there's one area that I'm probably least qualified to talk about, social media and marketing.
I was hoping you wouldn't take Tom down that road, but you know, let's focus back on the image piece, because he did outline. He took your number, and it's a 10x thing. You mentioned 10, he mentioned 100. You're talking about the image of the youth who are not in the best position to put the best foot forward, and there's a subconscious process there. So the result of your paying it forward, those children aren't going to be the real ambassadors for you. It is the people who buy your first shirts.
Right.
But the people who buy your first shirts should certainly understand the connection to what the result is. And you said earlier that you made the example of Tom's shoes. I mean, when people think about, you know, buying their new tennis shoes, and those are going to wind up being new tennis shoes for somebody else who would never have a pair of tennis shoes potentially, I think that's a strength. So,
yeah. Well, if I could make one other comment. I don't know if you do this now, but any clothing you sell, there should be a couple of little cards. It said, "Thank you, this is what you have done," and then let people see what they have done. So give this to some of your friends and let them know what you are doing.
Okay.
So make it very personal, not about you, but about them. And so their gift and what it's done. If I can't just make one of the I've been dumbfounded working with a lady, Tina Williford, if the name sounds familiar. You know,
yes,
Scott
I know that.
And she's formed the Table on Delk. It's a organization in Marietta that's helping in human trafficking. And it's dumbfounding the problem we're having here in Atlanta, where we could really help so many organizations. And that's when it's a $300 million business in Atlanta alone. So there's so many of us here that can or want to help but don't know how. And Matthew, I think what you're doing is just a fabulous way of letting people, individuals, help.
Yeah, and, you know, I think our core belief in all this is, what if we begin to, you know, we're not going to solve homelessness, we get that, right? But what if we begin to level the playing field for these 3,000 plus kids starting here in Atlanta through giving them resources they don't have today? And just to clarify, in the 10 versus 100, we want to start with 10. We're not going to stop there.
Oh,
we're going to get 10.
It's a multiplier effect.
Yeah, right.
My point was, you sort of have different segments, and that's. But you do have one feature that we didn't mention, didn't talk about. You actually provide something for the youth who are recipients to pay it forward immediately. So talk a little bit about that special feature you use.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a key component that we...
Key component. I like that word.
Right, no pun. This one took us a while to figure out too, is how can we not just have it be a handout, but have it be a message and have it be something that empowers them, you know, a little bit more than just being more confident when they're in gym class. So every child that gets a gym outfit will get a pendant, it's a key, that they will have to give to somebody that's had a positive impact in their life. So a lot of these kids don't have a chance to give gifts to others, and so this is our chance to give them something they can give to somebody that's had a positive impact in their life.
Well, Rich, I think this has been a great show. We've gotten all the process done. We've got the 2 great stories about paying it forward. We've got the ability to have a long-term impact upon new CEOs around. Matthew, last piece, how do they get in touch with you if they haven't picked it up already?
Sure, absolutely. So www.moshynwear.com, and Moshyn is spelled M-O-S-H-Y-N, or you can contact me directly at Matthew with 1 T at moshynwear.com.
And of course, you can go right to the PBC website and listen to the rest of this broadcast and maybe grab that. And also there's some information about our individual guests today, and certainly these stories are very much worth following. I'm looking forward to Tom, maybe 1,000 visits between Smith and Wesson very soon, so you'll be out there for quite a while. I know you enjoy what you do every week, and you're very blessed to have the opportunity. Matthew, it's been a pleasure to have you. Please give our best regards to your wife, the other half of the program that's making this thing happen, and we will see you again at the Buckhead Business Show. That comes up every week, so if you know people that need to be here or need to hear the story, please send them to probusinesschannel.com, and we will look forward to seeing you.
I
Rich.
wonder if Matthew with one T, I thought that was a typo, by the way, in your form. But I wonder if you can do T-shirts for Smith & Wesson for the dogs or not. Yeah.
We can do T-shirts. You know, also just one more quick plug. We also do custom corporate shirts. So if anybody's interested in getting shirts from us that have a story behind them, and then probably more comfortable than ones you typically buy for your employees.
Yeah. So Tom, do you have any connections with Motorola anymore?
No, unfortunately.
You know, that brings up an interesting point. We do have a great entrepreneurial community here in the city. There are a number of events where smaller companies are really looking at ways to brand and uniquely do themselves. So I certainly hope they will avail themselves. Tom works at the Atlanta Alpharetta Tech community, and there's certainly 300 visitors there. We've got the Atlanta Tech Village here, so maybe you can find some raving fans in some of these existing startup worlds.
That'd be awesome.
Because those people wear their stuff all the time, even on their skateboards.
Right.
So it's been a pleasure to be with you here, Matthew and Tom. I look forward to seeing you out in the streets of Buckhead very soon. And thanks for being with us today on the Buckhead Business Show. I'm Michael Moore. It's been a pleasure to be your host today, and thank you for sharing your story here.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.